Hello everybody, I've got an important message. It's just 3 words. Basketball is back. Well, it's not back. This is a season preview after all, and basketball's been back. I'm talking about the NBA. So many storylines heading into this new NBA season. I'll bring you my 3 favourites later on, but more importantly, joining me today are Lowe and Jackie MacMullan from ESPN, Chris Mannix of Yahoo Sports, and Joe Vardon from The Athletic. Big hitters, and I can't wait. Right, number 3 today is the top of the Eastern Conference. LeBron James is no longer there, but the Toronto Raptors have just hired British basketball legend Nick Nurse to be their new head coach. The Philadelphia 76ers, a year older, perhaps a year wiser. They just spent the entire summer holding their collective breaths because Joel Embiid was practicing on every single court across America, probably this one as well. And finally, the Boston Celtics, fully healthy once again. How far can they go this time around? That's what I asked Chris Mannix first of all.
Fully healthy, they're prohibitive favorites to win the East. I mean, conference finalists last year, you get your 2 big guns back in Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. Look, Toronto's dangerous. Philadelphia is what they are, but I don't know how you can look at any team but Boston as being the top team in the Eastern Conference.
We've just had a look at Cleveland Cavaliers shoot-around. Very different feel without LeBron James. What do you expect from them?
Not a lot of wins. Look, I respect what the Cavaliers are trying to do in terms of rebuilding without bottoming out. Kevin Love coming back on a multi-year deal stabilizes things to some degree. But if you look out on that floor, a whole lot of young guys. They're putting a lot into Colin Sexton, their rookie point guard. It's going to be a big learning curve for this team. Could they get into the playoffs? Maybe, because the 8th seed in the East might have 37, 38 wins. But it's going to be a long time before they're a contender again.
Moving to the West, of all the youngsters on the LA Lakers, who do you think LeBron James is happy to have the most?
Look, it's probably a tie between Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma. I mean, Kuzma is kind of that floor spacer that LeBron's used to playing with, a 3-point shooter that can camp out in the wings and create those openings for him to drive. At the same time, Brandon Ingram has the potential to be that next big star that he plays alongside. This is the first time since LeBron's first go-around in Cleveland that he hasn't had that established number 2 guy to play off of. Ingram, at the very least, averaged about 18 points per game last year. He's got that potential. So I think for different reasons, those 2 guys are right there.
Is this Kevin Durant's final season in Golden State?
I don't know. I mean, I think at the very least, Durant will have a real free agency next summer. I mean, this summer wasn't really one. He's won the championship. He's signed. But if you look at Durant, when he hits free agency next year, he's going to be 30 years old. He's probably going to have 3 championships. At that point, it's kind of a blank canvas. If he wanted to go back to Oklahoma City, he could go and do that. If he wanted to go to New York, where a lot of people think he'll strongly consider, he can go and do that. I hesitate to climb into Kevin Durant's mind there, but I think that he'll have a real free agency at the very least.
Which team do you want to watch the most this season?
Honestly, Boston has to be at the top of the list because of their firepower, the fact they're basically a hockey team with the type of talent they can throw out there with 2 lines. Golden State's always high on that list, and how do you avoid the Lakers? I mean, I think the Lakers could be a train wreck because of that roster and how it's put together, but with LeBron, with the way they're going to play up-tempo, they'll at the very least be entertaining at times.
And finally, Chris, I'm a big listener of the Dan Patrick Show, back in London every single day. You've had your buzz cut. Do you have a message again for Paul Papps and co?
Just that I'll be making bets with them again this year. I will not be betting my hair ever again. Like that, those days, I'm happy it came back. I'm happy there isn't any blotches in my head from all that. But the days of me betting my hair are long gone.
What is the bet then? What's the sure bet in the NBA this year?
I mean, Celtics in the finals has to be a pretty good one. But again, Toronto's really good. I think if there's a sure bet, it's Golden State coming out of the West. Houston took a step back. Utah's not ready yet. I think the Warriors, at a bare minimum, will walk to the NBA Finals again.
Right, Chris, I look forward to having your head shaved again next year. Thank you for your time.
You got it. My pleasure.
Now, one term that we like to use in the preseason is intriguing or intrigued, and you'll see that I overuse it in an interview later on in this video. But one team that intrigues me this season are the Golden State Warriors. They are the 2-time defending champions, I know, but they've added DeMarcus Cousins, which makes them different this season. They got complacent last year. That's one of the issues with winning. I wouldn't say there are any issues with winning really, but if there is one, it's complacency. The Warriors didn't really kick it into gear until Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals last year. They were lucky to pass the Rockets, who, without Chris Paul, of course. What Cousins does, a couple of things. First, he found the Stephen Curry doppelganger twins in pre-season. It's just a news story. It's something for them to cling on to and make the year more exciting. Think how bored these guys must be. They want it to be April. They want it to be May, June. That's when they want to play. But Cousins being there excites them. Secondly, on opening night, he's going to watch each and every one of his teammates collect their championship rings from last season. Cousins wants one. Something they haven't really had during this dynasty run. Throw it into the post, give it to the big man, score 2 points, back on the other end, and he's going to be a big part of their chase for a three-peat. Another thing that intrigues me is the question, what is Jackie MacMullan writing next? This summer, she wrote a mental health series on ESPN that involved Kevin Love and a lot of other figures around the NBA. Now, you've probably read Kevin Love's personal story on the Players Tribune about panic attacks and anxiety, but Jackie takes us even further into the subject, and that's where we started our conversation at the TD Garden.
Well, it's been a long time in the making. I've been working on that story over a year, and Kevin and I had been talking continuously about it. He was very helpful because him coming forward was such a huge thing. But then to get players like Marcus Morris to talk about it, and Bruce Bowen and Paul Pierce and some of the other high-profile players, hopefully, the plan is to try to destigmatize it for others. So it'll be easier for people to come forward. And also, we were very concerned about reaching high school and college-age kids because oftentimes if you let your mental health issues go unchecked, they exacerbate, they build up, and then oftentimes people turn to drugs or alcohol to cope with it, and then you've really got a mess on your hands. So it's great if you can get to it early.
What have people asked you since you've written those stories?
Well, I've heard from so many other players, and quite a few coaches actually, who have also struggled, and a lot of people just in everyday life that shared their own stories of mental health, whether it's anxiety or depression. And it's just apparent to me that it's something that it's a human problem, not a basketball problem. I ran into Michelle Roberts, the head of the Players Association for the NBA in New York last week, and she was asking me about, there was a number in there that I had that probably 40% of NBA players are struggling with something. And she said, I wonder where you got that number. And I said, I have to tell you that your own director of mental health told me that number might even be higher. So,
is there a reason why you wanted to tell that story before you even found out what you did about these players?
Well, I've been covering the NBA for a long time, 30 years probably, and there were so many players that you saw that had such great promise, and they'd sort of fade away, and I always wondered, well, why did that happen? And I'd ask coaches or GMs, and they would say, he has issues. And I thought, well, what are these issues? All this great talent going to waste, and people struggling to, take command of their lives. So that's why I was so interested in it.
Do you think it's still challenging for male athletes particularly to be honest about how they really feel, and is that an ego issue?
Oh, of course it is, yes. And then, that's what we're trying to destigmatize, and I think we've made some pretty big strides. I mean, there aren't a lot of tougher guys in the NBA than Marcus Morris, He's one of those guys that when he spoke, I think it really resonated with people. And what I learned from interviewing the African-American athletes was very prevalent in their culture not to show any sign of weakness. So we're getting there. The next big thing for me now is destigmatizing the idea of using medication to help with your mental health. No one wants to talk about that either. So that's the next frontier.
We're closing in on the start of the regular season. Another season comes around quickly.
It does, yeah.
What surprised you most this off-season?
Well, I didn't see Jimmy Butler coming. I didn't see that. And I'm beginning to wonder if he knows how badly he's hurting his reputation. I thought the Kawhi Leonard thing would play out differently. I thought in the end he would end up staying in San Antonio. Shows you how little I know. So player movement seems to be the order of the day in the NBA, and that's great because they earn that freedom when they have free agent status. And now players like Jimmy Butler and others and Kawhi are not even waiting till they're free agents to determine where they want to go. So it used to always be the owners had all the control. It feels quite a bit like the players do now.
Winning obviously helps, and it looks like Kawhi will win more than Jimmy in the short term. Who do you think of those two comes out better?
Oh, my money's on Kawhi Leonard. If he's healthy, I think he's a top 5 player in the league. I never thought Jimmy Butler was that.
Do we misunderstand Kawhi Leonard?
I don't know. I mean, I pride myself on getting players to talk to me and getting to know me, and I've had no luck at all with Kawhi. I really don't know what he's all about. I'm not sure he knows sometimes what he's all about. He's still a very young man, very, very talented. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now.
Good luck with that exclusive.
I know. Thank you.
Which team improved the most this off-season?
Which team? Well, I mean, the Lakers got the best player in the world. So I guess we'd have to say it's the Lakers, shouldn't I guess, huh?
You got any special predictions before I let you go?
Well, boy, I loved watching Luka Doncic the other night. I thought he was just fantastic. And I think Jason Tatum is going to end up being a top 10 player in the NBA.
Nearly time for my number one. You've probably guessed it already, but one more thing, you should go and read Zach Lowe's League Pass Power Rankings. He's been doing them for 7 years now, not to be confused with Power Rankings. That's where we started our chat at the TD Garden.
Teams that have some explosive potential to them, like Washington, Portland, maybe these borderline, we don't know what they're going to be kind of teams, those kind of teams.
Chicago or high? Why so?
Well, this is a flawed rating system, very complex algorithm, but Zach LaVine, a lot of dunks, also a lot of dumb stuff that's kind of funny to watch. They'll have an explosive offense and a really bad defense. That's pretty appealing, and everybody likes red. Everyone likes the red Bulls logo, right? That's cool.
Yeah, and if Jordan comes back, even better. We're talking about logos and uniforms. How do you think we can improve preseason?
Running clock. 1 free throw counts for 2 points if you make it, and 0 if you have just 1 free throw. That's it. Just they need to be shorter. This was a 2.5-hour national TV game we just watched, so it's too long.
It was 9:50 in the middle of the third quarter. Ready to leave.
The first quarter took, it felt like 2 hours.
Last one. Who is the most intriguing team this NBA season?
Well, Minnesota kind of jumped the gun on that one, becoming intriguing before the season even started. Let's see. The Lakers is the obvious answer, so I won't go with the Lakers. How about Toronto? How good is Kawhi going to... I mean, Kawhi already looks amazing in the preseason, but they have an interesting team, super deep in guards and wings. Big men are kind of a question mark in some matchups. So I'll go Toronto.
Good answer, because I'm working on a story at the moment. Nick Nurse, 10 years coaching in the British Basketball League. Who would have thought it?
I know. He has an interesting year ahead of him, and he's, as you know, a very out-of-the-box thinker who's going to do super crazy stuff on offense, and it's always good to have a guy like that coaching a good team, because he's not under pressure to win every single game. He can try some crazy stuff. They're going to be fun.
Okay, time for my number one. Drum roll, please. The Lakers and LeBron James. The league needed a shake-up, and it got one. Getting used to the uniform. The Lakers being a relevant franchise once again. The shadow of Kobe Bryant. Having LeBron's nickname for Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, Michael Beasley, and Rajon Rondo, Mud. Misunderstood, underappreciated, determined, maligned, underwhelming, disastrous. Lance Stevenson and LeBron on the same team. James in the Western Conference, every single night a challenge, not a Tuesday night in Atlanta. Oh, the beauty of it. And who better to talk to than Joe Vardon of The Athletic, who's covered LeBron James for the last 4 seasons.
Joe, you joined Clean.com to cover LeBron James predominantly. How did his evolution as a person grow over that time you were there?
Well, I think he was able to find himself from the standpoint of growing into adulthood and fatherhood in a way that maybe he didn't have time to earlier in his career. He found himself really being home again in Cleveland, and he took on that role both with the Cavs and then also again just at home. They brought a third child into this world. His boys really started to come of age, and so I think that was kind of where he turned the page to the next chapter in his life from that standpoint.
Now, I don't know if the shoot around before the Celtics preseason game here was your first with the Cavaliers this season, but when you did have that first one, how different did it feel without LeBron?
It's very quiet, and it's entirely different. There's only a few of us around the team now, as opposed to a horde. Obviously, you can talk to anybody you want to talk to. You're kind of on your own time, your own schedule. I've been telling people that LeBron is a news driver. Every day for 4 years, you come to work knowing whatever he said, you were there to catch it. Now you come to work and you're searching for the story. And it's a good challenge. It's a new challenge. These are some good guys on this team, and it's fun to get a chance to know them.
Who should feel more pressure this season for the Cavaliers, Kevin Love or Cedi Osman?
Wow, well, I don't think anybody should really feel pressure, just from the standpoint that the two teams that have lost LeBron the next year, they didn't make the playoffs. So anything that the Cavs do that's good is gravy for them. Cedi is going to get a chance, at least early on here, to show himself, prove himself. So I guess from that standpoint, there'd be a little bit more riding on his shoulders. But this is a pressure-free year for the Cavs. They all have a chance to breathe.
Some people have suggested that LeBron might take a year off in LA, which is not going to happen. But do you buy into the whole he's gone to LA to increase his business pursuits, or is he all in to win one more championship?
Okay, well, I don't know anything about taking a year off. That's not going to happen. But the other answers to your question are both yes. He's there to win. He's there to be a Laker. He's there to play basketball. At the same time, his business empire is there. That's where it all is, and it just made sense from that standpoint. And Spring Hill Entertainment, which is the media company that he owns, is going to benefit by having him just being there instead of being in Cleveland. They're really starting to gain some momentum with the projects that they're doing, but LeBron will be locked in as a Laker and playing basketball.
Now, I know you're a reporter, but what was your most memorable LeBron James moment over the time covering him?
I can't say that there was a single moment because there were so many of them. There was just so many times just alone, just he and I and a couple other of my friends on the beat. So I can't say one thing. I will say I walked directly behind his car with him and his wife at the championship parade in Cleveland. The full walk, and I walked for 4 hours behind him and just witnessed the adulation of upwards of 1 million people, all kind of raining down on him, and that is something that certainly I will take with me.
And the Lakers have gone each and every way this offseason, not just LeBron James, but a cast of characters. What are you expecting from this team?
Well, I think I think they'll have their bumps and bruises during the regular season, but the thing I've been saying is I think that they will be the Lakers are always going to be a tough out because they have 23, and they will go until they play the Warriors. If they see the Warriors in the first round, then they're out in the first round. If they see them in the conference finals, then that's when it is. Otherwise, LeBron James is kind of like the Yankees of last decade. You just don't bet against them until you have a reason to, and the Warriors are the only team really that have shown the reason. They're the only ones that have proved it.
Last question, Joe. We know that Kobe Bryant was obsessed with Michael Jordan, the 6 championships, sticking his tongue out during a game. Does LeBron James have any focus on Michael and that legacy?
Well, he has said that he does, but LeBron's just different. LeBron sees a bigger world and a bigger picture at a younger age than Kobe did. So LeBron's he's 34, and he knows he went to a conference again where there is a reigning champ who is going to be really tough to beat, maybe for a long time. So I don't think LeBron is hyper-focused on 6, but he's going to try for 1.
Great stuff from all 4 of my guests today. Thank you to Chris, to Jackie, to Zach, and to Joe. I'll leave you with 2 thoughts for the comments below. Which team and which player do you think desperately needs a good season this campaign? I'll start you off with the Denver Nuggets, who for that much talent cannot afford to keep missing out on the postseason, even if it is the Western Conference by a game or 2. The player, Andrew Wiggins, $146.5 million, 5 years. That's a whopping contract for a spotty work ethic and an even spottier mid-range jumper. Jimmy Butler might not need you, Andrew, but your team certainly do, especially after all that money they've spent. Enjoy opening night, enjoy the juicy overreactions, and I cannot wait to bring you more NBA content.